Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast, brought to you by Agrible, your premier platform for real-time global insights. Well, I want to start off this video by showing you Sunday's radar. So we're going to look at a whole 24-hour time period of radar, basically that started early Sunday morning, or actually late Saturday night, going through late on Sunday night. Now, here was the remnants of the system that moved through the Ohio River Valley on Friday into early Saturday morning, bringing quite a bit of precipitation to the southeast. We have two other systems I really want to key in on, though. First, this was the system that started off, this little clipper that kind of came through parts of Montana into South Dakota, Iowa, Minnesota, Illinois, Missouri, bringing in some snow on Sunday afternoon and evening. But most importantly to hard red winter wheat was the system that's going to be coming out of Colorado. So watch this as I animate it. First system takes off to the east. Here comes the snow spreading across South Dakota, but look at Kansas. Kansas actually had 2 shots of precipitation on Sunday. Really some slow movers bringing through quite a bit of precipitation to our hard red winter wheat growing area. So this was very beneficial rain for that area. Then as the system kind of slid to the south and east here, basically extending from South Dakota into parts of Illinois, even down to Kentucky and Tennessee, this particular region saw some light snow at times. And it took a little bit of a while for the snow to get to the ground just because we were so dry in the lower levels, but eventually it did. And we did actually see a couple of inches of snow throughout this area. Now, this next map that I'm going to show you shows you the 72 hours of total snow accumulation getting us through early in the evening on Sunday. What I want to kind of draw your attention to first was this area. Remember in our last video we discussed that there was going to be the potential for some snow falling through parts of, southern Illinois, Indiana, get into the Ohio River Valley, really Kentucky, southern Ohio, West Virginia. As this system evolved, by the time we got into Friday, what we saw was that we're going to be missing that component of the winds that was really going to help overrun that front, and instead these winds kind of came up and basically had much more of a parallel flow to the boundary, which extended right through here. Well, what's the end result? Well, we don't get that strong flow over the front, and what we end up getting is a lot less snow. And to be honest with you, I'm so glad we did. We then had our second system that kind of draped right in through here. You just saw this one on radar, and that was quite important as well for really putting down some even more snow amounts in through parts of the Dakotas, which is what we're watching very carefully at this point of the season for how much snow they continue to pack in April, because that could bring a spring flooding threat and also work on their prevent plant acres. But you just need to see this as kind of the backdrop as we move forward with the forecast. The other thing I have to show you is this. This was Saturday night's soil temperatures. So when you kind of look at these colors in through here, this color right in through here marks my freezing colors. So we're talking about soil temperatures that are still below freezing. In fact, we're in the single digits right now in parts of the Dakotas. So we really need to see these temperatures warm considerably before we start getting into the fields. And speaking getting into the fields, I just get a lot of questions. When are we going to see this pattern change? Well, what is the pattern really featured? Well, we know over the last 14 days, it's been extremely wet in through this area. We've had extremely cold temperatures throughout almost the entirety of the Corn Belt, with the exception of the southern plains here. So it's something we have to be on the lookout for to see if we can get some sort of a breakdown in the pattern that could give us some favorable weather. Now, I just want to show you something. I just did a quick analysis of some USDA NASS data here showing us week 15 planting progress from 1980, which is over here on the right, to 2017. And this is valid through the second week of April. So once we would get to the end of this week of April, we'll start to see data showing up for 2018. And I just want to show you something. Over the last decade or so, you can see it's been incredibly variable in terms of how much the entire country has made progress in planting. We've had years like 2012 and 2010 where we already had 15 to 18, 19% of the whole crop planted. Then years like 14 and 15 and 13 where we were still way down here in the single digits, as with 2009 and 2008. So we're certainly going to be behind where we were in 2017, but at this point, it's not that big of a deal. It's really once we get into about week 20, which would be the mid-May week, that we have to be on the lookout for seeing what our progress looks like and at least an idea on what it might mean for the upcoming growing season. But I just thought you might want to see some of the data that kind of shows you what planting progress has looked like in the past. Okay, so speaking of planting progress, what does the weather hold for at least our next 10 to 15 days? As we always do, we have to assess the flow of the atmosphere. And there's one very important feature I want to key in on first, and that is this deep trough that we've been noticing here sitting over the Hudson Bay, giving us that negative North Atlantic oscillation pattern, which has kept so much of the Corn Belt cold. I do see some adjustments in it. Now, it's not timed perfectly with other things to really bring in some heat, but at least I want you to see this. So this is starting off on Sunday evening, so getting us into, let's see here, getting us into, let's go back to Monday morning here, or Monday afternoon. We still see the influence of that trough, so this is going to be cool while the west enjoys a ridge, keeping them warm. But what I want you to notice here as I step forward is this. We start to build this ridge in the middle part of the country by the time we get into midweek. So the heat's going to start off in the west first and then slowly progress toward the Corn Belt with time. Now what's setting this up is this deeper trough setting up in the Gulf of Alaska. And that trough is helping to push a ridge across the center part of the country, and that ridge is really going to basically provide for a nice warm-up for much of the Corn Belt, starting really on Tuesday, getting us all the way through Friday. Now, the problem is that trough that was sitting in the Gulf of Alaska moves into the west coast, and here's where we see it Friday morning. And this is a pretty well-defined trough in here, and it's been in the forecast going back actually 6 days, so this has been a very consistent feature. Now, as I've been discussing with you, we have seen a lineup of troughs. So you can see there's one over here just off the east coast of Japan. There's one just north of Hawaii in the Gulf of Alaska. We have this one that's really coming right here off of the Rocky Mountains. And this is going to be the one that we have to watch carefully. This could not only bring maybe big blizzard conditions here to the north central plains, but also drag a pretty powerful front that'll go all the way down to Texas, along which we could see some nasty severe weather toward the end of our week. So we're talking about here on Thursday, Friday time frame. But what we'll see, though, is that system moves on through, bringing in, of course, behind it some colder air into the Corn Belt, so your warm-up will be kind of short-lived. But notice this, another ridge starts to build here out west, and the whole pattern stays very, very active and just kind of pushes on through. Now, did you notice as I click through this, that feature I pointed at the beginning is gone for the most part? We've really lost the stranglehold of the huge trough that was sitting here over the Hudson Bay area. But we're not yet into a flow pattern that means consistently above average temperatures for much of the Corn Belt. Very active though, trough after trough after trough we're going to be watching here for at least the next 15 days. Now, just to show you what this looks like, again, kind of all put together, we see a very active pattern. And that's why when I show you what temperatures look like, I've just picked this off where I'm from here in Champaign. Look at this. Here's our warm-up toward the end of the week. On Friday, when we reach a peak in temperatures, we might see 70 degrees in Champaign. That deeper trough comes through with the severe weather and plummets us back down here, and we start to warm back up again, you know, with the next system that's approaching. So I just thought you might want to see this wild ride we're still on in terms of temperatures. Now, when we put it all together, though, the northern plains really don't break out of the cold pattern too well. We've got too much snow on the ground. We still have a lot of cold air that's loaded up in Canada that can provide these cooler temperatures, and the troughs are just too frequent, and the warm air doesn't get quite far enough to the north, and that system on Friday brings blizzard conditions. If it is forecast properly, brings blizzard conditions to the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin. So that's why your next 10 days, as forecast by the European model, when you kind of average it all together, keep the northern plains very, very cold, much colder than average. But remember, you will see in the southern Corn Belt, the eastern Corn Belt, we will see a wild swing in temperatures with a warm-up through most of this week, followed by a cool down to start next weekend. Now, I want to show you this system that we're all getting quite concerned about. So watch this. Here we go. As we kind of move into our forecast, here's the colder that hangs on. See the deep trough here? See the colder that hangs on here on Tuesday? It will be a relatively dry start to the week for the Corn Belt after we get that first system out of here that came through on Sunday. But watch this as we get into Tuesday night, into Wednesday. This is when the temperatures start to rebound. So you can see the jet stream kind of weakens and builds into a broad ridge, and look at the warmer than average temperatures that spread out kind of to the south of it. So this is where the warm-up starts to begin. Now, we do have one little weak system coming through on this shortwave that's going to go through Wisconsin, Minnesota, and parts of the Dakotas, probably Wednesday evening. This isn't a big precipitation event, but it's at least going to bring some chances for precip. Kind of gets its act together a little bit better on Thursday, early Thursday morning here over the Great Lakes. But you can still see the warmer than average temperatures hanging on. And then this is the bad guy that we got to watch here. This trough in the jet stream, this is going to be the one that's going to be bringing in some incredibly unsettled weather. Here it is Thursday evening. By the time we get into early Friday morning, deep upper level trough, nice little jet streak sitting right here in the flow, great advection of vorticity. All of that just spells the deepening of a low pressure system somewhere kind of in eastern South Dakota. And what this will do is this will drag a cold front that'll come stretching right in through here, an upper level front that'll go out ahead of it, so we'll have multiple chances for showers and storms, basically stretching from parts of Iowa through Indiana, coming all the way down to Louisiana and Texas. So in through this area, this will be the area we're going to have to watch out for some severe weather, possibly on Friday. But look at this. The backside is all snow, and it's been pretty consistent in the models that it's going to be that way. As we take one more step forward, here we can see the system by the time we get into overnight hours on Friday and early morning Saturday, bringing in a big shield of precipitation right here, as both the upper level front and the surface front kind of come into sequence here. Still more snow on the backside and plunging cold air behind that. So I told you we're not done with this cold air yet. Deep trough, but there will be some nice reprieve from it midweek before this system gets here. So this is the one we all have to look out for. Again, blizzard conditions to the north, heavy rain out to the east of it, and a big front as it gets dragged through here could bring in some severe weather. So a lot going on with this system. Let's put it all together and look at total precipitation. Animating this out from the GFS runs on Sunday, we can see, taking us out the next 10 days, we see really the eastern part of the United States, complements of that system coming through into the week, does have a tendency to stay kind of wet. Do notice that the precipitation you see here in eastern Colorado going through parts of Kansas, this was the precipitation I showed you at the beginning when I showed you the radar animation. So this whole area is forecast to remain dry over the next 10 days. So that's quite important to see. And just so you can watch it, here's the snow spreading that we saw on Sunday. That's the big event toward the end of the week, right in through there. Now, don't trust the model snowfall amounts. When you look at this, we're just looking for the location of where the snow is going to be. But this is certainly having the, we'll have the potential to put down quite a bit of snowfall in parts of northern South Dakota and the southern half of North Dakota. And this is the state we're watching very carefully as we move through the month of April into May for possibly having an increased number of plant acres, simply given the cold conditions in that area. I'm going to show you this one other way. Let's animate out looking through the next 16 days at precipitation anomalies, doing it a week at a time. We're just looking for the overall pattern here. As I animate this, do notice how the central plains stay dry while the eastern half of the Corn Belt really in through this whole area stays wet. In fact, if I just kind of come right in through here, this is the pattern day 5 through 11, but it kind of just typifies the whole upcoming weather patterns once we get through this brief warm-up we have this week with really wet conditions, wetter than average conditions stretching through this whole area. So this is going to continue to kind of plague farmers who are wanting to get in the fields. We're certainly going to be behind the our 5-year average in terms of getting things planted. So this is what we're looking at in the United States. Let's just take a quick look down in South America. This is the 10-day precipitation anomaly forecast by the GFS. And what I want you to kind of hone in on here is this quite wet up in Mato Grosso, up where we got our safrinha crop planted, and the safrinha crop looks great. So that corn crop in through here is looking to be pretty good. But you do see how dry it is down in southern Brazil, getting over toward Uruguay. But they are anticipating precipitation for Buenos Aires province, which is right in through here over the next 10 days. Strong agreement between this and the European model. And I do want to point out that over the last 10 days, we did get some big time precipitation here in Cordoba. That's what this graph is showing you, kind of working a little bit of a dent on their longer term drought. But anything that was planted early, I mean, they're already about 10% harvested on the early planted soybeans. So this rain does not matter. It slows them down. It's only for that late planted or the double cropped, soybeans and corn that we are going to be seeing some sort of benefit out of these recent rains. But for the most part, this is not going to make not going to be a big deal in terms of really increasing their yield potential and production potential. It's just it's rain, but it's too late to have major improvements, and we can really see that Cordoba looks to remain drier than average over the next 10 days despite the recent rainfall. So this is what's going on in South America. You can kind of compare that to the way we're starting things off in North America here, and there's certainly a lot to be watching with the weather. So we're still waiting for that pattern breakdown. I'm watching it carefully. You all watch it with me. Pay close attention to everything going on north of Hawaii and south of Greenland. Those are our areas to be keying in on to see if we can get toward a warmer pattern at some point in April. So we'll keep a close eye on it, keep you updated each week. So with that, I think I'll go ahead and wrap up this forecast video. We hope you look forward to Agrible's next ag forecast coming out on Thursday. Head to agrible.com to learn how you can get real-time agronomic and sustainability insights all at the touch of a button. Look forward to talking to you again midweek.